And unfortunately, I think the dad has that much control over Daniel. But it's like we're blaming.
There was no jab, nothing changed. He deserved the knockout because he never changed something like
Johnny Nelson slams Daniel Dubois' dad for having the party before the fight and absolutely rips him apart. Stan Dubois tried playing mastermind, but ended up wrecking his son's career-defining night. Johnny calls him delusional, a man living on another planet whose ego cost Daniel everything. This was reckless, embarrassing, and borderline sabotage from Stan.
I just think to do something so stupid, and I mean stupid, if he thinks he knows better than every top trainer in the world, he thinks he knows better than every top fighter in the world, even though he's never got to that level, he's on another planet. And I think he made an expensive mistake at the cost of his son's cost of his son.
Stan Dubois gets ripped to shreds by Johnny Nelson, who exposes him as a reckless liability in his son's corner. Throwing a party and disrespecting Don Charles on fight week? That's not bold, it's brainless. Nelson tears into him for dragging street-level drama into elite championship boxing. Stan turned a serious fight into a backyard mess.
Now if my man's putting a party on and saying, we ain't fighting unless all the crew come in, on fight night, he's an idiot. I don't know him personally, so I can't, but what I'm seeing is foolishness. How can you be so stupid? That's street mentality. This is world-class boxing.
Carl Froch doesn't sugarcoat it. This is war, not a birthday bash. He makes it crystal clear, real fighters enter the ring like warriors, not party guests. The fact that Dubois' camp thought a gathering was appropriate before facing a killer like Usyk proves just how out of touch and unserious that team really was.
Socialize, you're not in party mode, you're in fight mode. You're in, I could be walking to a certain death mode here. This is the hurt game. This is a dangerous, hard sport where people get seriously injured in there. And when you're fighting, you want to be in the mode of fight zone, fight mode. Let's go, I'm going to battle, I'm going to war, I'm a fucking warrior. I'm going in there to do some damage and potentially getting some damage done to me.
Carl Froch warned that this was war, not a celebration, and Dave Coldwell takes it even deeper. All that fake confidence from Dubois' camp only piled unnecessary pressure on his shoulders. The cheers, the backslaps, the false belief. It didn't empower him, it crushed him. Dubois walked into a battlefield carrying everyone else's fantasy, not his own fire.
It's there's pressure coming on more and more, even by people just saying, good luck, mate, you've got this, mate, you're gonna smash him, mate. It's just a bit more pressure, a bit more tension, a bit more expectancy from them that's added on to the fighter. The fighter's going into the ring not only wanting to win the fight for himself, but also feels the added pressure from the team that's been.
Following Coldwell's insight, Adam Smith doubles down. This wasn't just a defeat, it was a collapse in preparation. Dubois didn't give himself a real chance, and Stan Dubois made sure of that. Against a generational talent like Usyk, there's no room for chaos or careless energy. Smith calls it right. There were levels to this, and Dubois was never close.
It's not the way that I think you should prepare for an undisputed heavyweight championship. I can't see how his mind, surely you want to give yourself the best possible chance. That said, he went out, he gave it his best, and he lost. He lost to the better man, and it was a case of luck.
Here comes Don Charles in full PR mode, desperately trying to rebrand a wild party into a so-called gathering. But no matter what label he slaps on it, the damage is done. A fighter on the brink of the biggest test of his life doesn't need a crowd, music, and distractions. He needs laser focus. Trying to justify this madness by comparing it to prep for the AJ fight is laughable. AJ isn't Usyk, and that fight wasn't for an undisputed crown with everything on the line. Don Charles might be trying to save face, but this gathering looked more like a self-sabotage ritual. The optics were shocking. Stan Dubois, with Don's compliance, created a circus atmosphere around a career-defining moment. This wasn't a warm-up, it was a meltdown in the making, and trying to spin it after the fact only confirms just how ridiculous the setup truly was.
Let's retract. Let's replace the word party with gathering. It was a gathering. Okay?
Okay.
Right. The same gathering we used for the prep on fight day for the AJ.
Adam Smith tries to tread carefully, but even he can't ignore the chaos. He hints at the elephant in the room. Stan Dubois is not a qualified trainer. He's a dad playing coach, trying to run things like a family reunion instead of a high-stakes title camp. The fact Stan goes by 2 names is already bizarre, but what's even worse is his insistence that past methods apply to every future battle. This isn't a school reunion. It's the top level of heavyweight warfare. Usyk is nothing like AJ, and what worked once doesn't mean it will work again, especially when it's wrapped in ego and poor decision making. Smith makes it clear it's not ideal. The pictures from Fight Night don't show a team ready for battle. They show a squad in denial. Stan may love his son, but his actions suggest he loves control more, and that cost them dearly.
Covering this sport for a long time, I haven't seen that sort of thing before. However, Don Charles has come out saying they had it last time, it worked with the AJ fight. Dave Dubois, Stan Dubois, goes by 2 names, doesn't he? Has a very, very special relationship with his son, and maybe he thinks he knows best. This is where the difference is with a trainer, Don Charles. Did Don want it? He said that's what we did before and it worked with AJ. Maybe Daniel's the sort of guy that like to keep things the same way, but the picture's coming out. Yeah, look, it's not.
Duke McKenzie doesn't mince words. 60 or 70 random people around Dubois before the biggest fight of his life? That's a disaster. Whether you call it a party, a gathering, or a PR stunt, it reeks of bad planning. Half those people probably didn't even know what was at stake, and certainly weren't there to sharpen Daniel's mindset. This isn't a nightclub. It's not an award show. It's fight night, and the man walking into the ring should be surrounded by focus, calm, and elite-level energy. Instead, he was surrounded by noise, selfies, distractions, and clout chasers. McKenzie can't even wrap his head around it, and neither can the fans. It was a circus atmosphere that took the edge off Dubois before he even threw a jab. No serious contender allows that chaos in camp, especially not against someone as calculated and cold-blooded as Usyk. Stan turned preparation into a popularity contest, and Daniel paid the price.
60 or 70 people hanging around you, or people that you don't even know, probably half of them, that's not a good look, if that is the case. I can't really understand what their method of thinking would have been, why they would have been having some kind of a celebration party, quote unquote, whatever they were doing. But you don't want to be around that many people. It's bad press.
Shane Mosley takes a more respectful tone toward Dubois, but even his calm breakdown highlights the same truth. Daniel was never ready for this version of Usyk. The mental pressure, the experience gap, and the sheer championship level aura were overwhelming. Even if Dubois had shown up in perfect physical shape, the psychological warfare Usyk brings is unmatched. Mosley knows what it's like to be in deep waters, and he's subtly telling us Daniel was drowning before the first bell. It's not just about size or strength. It's about mindset, composure, and knowing how to survive moments of chaos. Usyk thrives in those. Daniel, thanks to his team's circus, entered that ring already mentally fatigued. He wasn't fighting just Usyk, he was fighting his own unpreparedness. And in that world, there's no mercy. Mosley's calm tone only makes the truth hit harder. Daniel didn't quit. He was simply broken by someone who operates on another level.
No, I think Daniel was in the right mindset. I mean, I just think that Usyk had too much for him, like too much mental, too much experience, too much. He had too much for him. There was nothing he could do about that. If it was a smaller Usyk like it was when he fought the first time, maybe Dubois had a good chance. But now that Usyk is bigger and stronger, he already has this. So yeah, it's a wrap. It's a wrap for the heavyweight division now.
Dominic Ingle absolutely nails it with this savage Viking comparison, and it's not even an exaggeration. What Stan Dubois allowed before this fight felt like ancient drunken chaos before war. But this ain't the Viking age. It's elite modern boxing, where a misstep in preparation can end careers, not just fights. Instead of sharpening Daniel's mental edge, they dulled it with egos, noise, and nonsense. Usyk didn't just beat Dubois, he walked into the ring already, knowing the other camp was a disorganized mess. Ingle's words sting because they're true. You don't show up to a war with party energy unless you're prepared to be sacrificed. And that's exactly what happened. Stan's lack of tactical awareness turned his son into cannon fodder. There's no glory in fighting like a fool. Dubois wasn't just outclassed in the ring, he was betrayed by those who were meant to protect him from such humiliation. Ingle's subtle dig cuts deep, comparing it to the Vikings highlights how backward and self-destructive Stan's mentality was. A championship fight isn't a pub night, it's life or death at the top of the sport.
I think the only people who used to party before battle with the Vikings were, and used to get pissed up and, you know, dull the senses and then go and have a fight. But they win a proper die if they, you know, if they were into.
Dominic Ingle lands a brutal truth bomb. Daniel Dubois probably didn't believe he was going to win in the first place. And if that's the mindset, then what was the point of dragging in a sea of hangers-on, fake supporters, and half-drunk well-wishers? It was theater, a big, noisy, shallow distraction created to mask insecurity. When you're confident, you don't need external validation. But when you're uncertain, you start building illusions. Stan Dubois invited a circus of people who weren't going to bleed in that ring, who weren't going to take Usyk's punches, but were very ready to cheer and sip drinks at ringside. Ingle is spot on. Daniel was alone when the lights came on, and all those supporters were useless. They didn't lift him up. They didn't help him dig deep. They were there for the ride, not the battle. This whole setup felt like a man accepting his fate and turning it into a performance. It's devastating to admit, but Ingle might be right. The party wasn't arrogance. It was quiet surrender disguised as noise. Stan should be ashamed for letting it happen.
Because realistically, I don't even think Daniel thought he was going to win that fight. So it's no good having all these people turning up, all these celebrities, you know, getting drunk and having a party on your behalf when it's you going and doing the fighting and they're doing all the shouting.
When your own blood labels you a disgrace, you know something has gone terribly wrong. Caroline Dubois didn't hold back, and honestly she shouldn't have. She's a rising star with real discipline, ambition, and focus. And watching her brother's career spiral because of egos, delusion, and laughable prep must have felt like betrayal. What's worse, this wasn't just about losing, it was about how Daniel lost. No grit, no resilience, and no warrior mindset. Caroline's outburst wasn't disrespect, it was disappointment boiling over. She saw a man surrounded by people pretending to help him, but ultimately enabling weakness. When she called it disgraceful, she wasn't just talking about the result, she was talking about the excuses, the circus, the cowardice, shown in the biggest moment of his life. Her words hit harder than any punch, because they came from inside the family. It's one thing to lose to Usyk, it's another to show up already broken, already beaten in the mind. Caroline saw through it all. She wasn't reacting as a critic, she was reacting as a fighter who knows what real preparation looks like, and that wasn't it.
There's no pretend, the man is supremely talented, but time and season is everything in the sport. And
Caroline flips the spotlight and gives Usyk the flowers he fully deserves, and in doing so takes a subtle but powerful shot at her brother. She knows what greatness looks like. Usyk isn't just a champion, he's a once-in-a-generation talent, and more importantly, he prepares like one. No distractions, no chaos, no circus acts before a war. Caroline praises what Daniel lacked: consistency, discipline, and championship pedigree. It's not just a compliment to Usyk, it's a warning shot to anyone who dares think talent alone is enough. You can't fake greatness. You can't dance around preparation and expect to beat someone who treats this sport like life or death. Usyk moved up in weight, adapted, conquered, and dominated. Meanwhile, Daniel's team was busy throwing pre-fight gatherings and giving out wristbands. Caroline's words reflect admiration, but they also reflect shame. She knows Daniel wasn't robbed or outmuscled. He was outworked, outclassed, and outprepared by a fighter who does everything by the book. Her praise for Usyk isn't just truth. It's a reality check for the entire Dubois camp.
Usyk, I think Usyk is a phenomenal fighter, phenomenal athlete. To move up in weight, to become undisputed at cruiserweight, undisputed at heavyweight, that speaks of his talent. You know, you can't fake that, you can't make that up.
The entire Dubois-Usyk saga wasn't just a boxing defeat, it was a public unraveling of everything wrong behind the scenes. From the moment footage emerged of Stan Dubois orchestrating that reckless pre-fight party, it became clear Daniel was walking into the lion's den with his back already broken. Usyk came in like a silent killer, calm, focused, and carrying the weight of world titles, while Daniel entered surrounded by noise, egos, and empty hype. Every voice in this script, from Johnny Nelson to Dominic Ingle, from Adam Smith to Caroline Dubois, pointed at one undeniable truth. This wasn't just about being outboxed, it was about being sabotaged by those closest to you. Stan Dubois turned a high-level training camp into a PR stunt, and Don Charles, instead of enforcing control, folded into the madness. There were no excuses, no controversial calls, just a clear, cold masterclass by a fighter who lives for legacy versus one who was swimming in confusion. Caroline's brutal honesty sealed it. Even his own family had enough of the circus. And as Usyk's greatness continues to rise, Daniel must now face a new fight, the one within his own camp. Does he cut the cord from the chaos and rebuild? Or does he remain shackled to a system that failed him when it mattered most? This isn't just a loss, it's a crossroads. So now we ask you, is Dubois done at the top? Or is there still a warrior buried beneath the wreckage? Let us know below.